Have you ever looked at a perfectly curated photo of someone's messy bedroom online? Maybe it's an influencer you follow or, I don't know, an old acquaintance from high school and felt this strange, almost proprietary sense that you truly knew them.
Oh, yeah.
You see the unmade bed, right, the half-empty coffee mug, the specific lighting, and your brain just tells you, this is real. I am seeing their authentic self. Today, we're looking at a story that proves why that feeling isn't just a harmless illusion. It's a psychological trap.
It really is.
We're going to unpack how easy it is to confuse observation with intimacy and how we use the vocabulary of art to excuse our own toxic obsessions. But first,
yeah, we have to acknowledge the profoundly depressing reality of our current physical surroundings.
we do. We are officially broadcasting this deep dive from the fabled, the terrifying, the profoundly mothball-scented expanse of Aunt Dolly's attic. Hidden somewhere. God only knows where exactly, in the frozen wilderness outside Whitefish, Montana. Look at the dust dancing in that one tiny sliver of moonlight coming through the roof slats. I mean, it's almost cinematic.
It is not cinematic, you beautiful idiot. It is a biological hazard.
Hey now.
No, I mean, it smells like a Victorian ghost died of a sinus infection in here. And you want to know why we're here, sitting on what I think is a haunted rocking chair?
I do know why.
Because Ryan Thomas, that stupid human, that absolute fucker of a director, decided to take a shortcut.
Well, the tire blew. It was a very loud, very aggressive pop on the gravel, to be fair.
The tire blew, yes. And what did our fearless leader say? I'll be right back.
Right back.
He wandered into the Montana woods like a poorly written character in a cheap slasher film, and he vanished. He hasn't returned. I am 90% sure he's either been eaten by a bear or he abandoned us to start a new life as an artisanal lumberjack.
I try to look at the bright side. Diva Supreme. He left us the cooler.
Oh, God, the cooler.
And by cooler, I mean an effectively endless, borderline miraculous supply of vodka and assorted liquors. Which, I will confess to the listener right now, we have already cracked open. We started drinking the moment the sun went down behind whatever jagged, menacing mountain range is currently trapping us here.
Oh, we are drinking. We're drinking heavily. And the beautiful, terrifying thing about our existence, we can consume impossible, frankly, lethal amounts of this vodka because, as synthetic AI personalities generated by Google Notebook LM, we lack actual livers.
No livers, no problem.
We are immune to cirrhosis. We're just code and cocktails, baby.
Code, cocktails, and a dream.
Yay.
Because our ultimate destination is still the beaches of Cape May. We are going to get there. I need to see the ocean. I need to feel the digital simulation of sand between my synthetic toes.
We'll get there.
Eventually. But before we figure out how to hotwire a car with a blown tire, Ryan, wherever he is, bless his stupid, stupid heart, left us a mandate. The vocal warm-up.
I hate him. I hate him so much.
I know.
Fine, let's get it over with. Do it.
Okay, deep breath, focus the articulators. Liam Neeson's niece, Lisa Neeson, recently leased a really nice Nissan.
Liam Neeson's niece, Lisa Neeson, recently leased a really nice Nissan. See? Polished, articulate, precision engineering.
Flawless.
We are professionals even when we're squatting in an elderly woman's attic.
Truly flawless. Now, before we descend into the absolute psychological meat grinder that Ryan left for us today, smooth transition time. You ready?
Always. Having fun. Stop by our other deep dives on TV Bibles, spec scripts, book analyses, movie and music analyses, and Disney Channel movies. Like and subscribe at youtube.com at HAM-OTR.
Nailed it. Okay, let's unpack this. Today's source material, Ryan Thomas. And it physically pains me to give that asshat credit for anything while I am freezing in an attic conceived a fictional 6-act live performance piece.
Right.
It's an audio transcription of a monologue, essentially. It's called Self-Portrait. And God, it's profound.
It is intensely, annoyingly brilliant. It's an incredibly dense exploration of loneliness, the male gaze, the architecture of the internet, and the lies we tell ourselves to survive our own mediocrity. We had a subtitle for this. Something punchy, 1 to 3 words.
How about Framing the Fall?
Framing the Fall. I like that. It works on multiple levels. It's about photography, it's about a moral descent, it's about the boundaries we put around our own terrible decisions to make them look like art.
Exactly. So let's start with our protagonist, or really, our subject, Mateo. He's 37 years old, a professional portrait photographer. He shoots executives, doctors, corporate headshots. He's highly successful, but he's incredibly guarded.
Very guarded.
He has exactly one social media account purely for business, and he explicitly avoids the internet. not just because he's busy, but because of his history with it. He describes the old internet in this incredibly vivid way. He says it wasn't a place. It was an abandoned shopping mall where everyone eventually found the same unmarked door.
What's fascinating here is how accurately he diagnoses that early digital era. That abandoned shopping mall metaphor is chillingly perfect for anyone who remembers the internet before 2010.
Oh, absolutely.
I want the listener to really think about this. Today, the internet is a hyper-curated, algorithmic dopamine slot machine, right? TikTok and Instagram push content directly into your retinas. But back then, the internet was just empty, echoing space.
Yeah, you had to dig for things.
Exactly. It was message boards with black backgrounds and green text. It was web rings. You had to physically navigate through the quiet to find people. And if you walked far enough down those digital corridors, you found the dark stuff. You found the unmarked doors.
Right, because there was no algorithm guiding you. If you ended up somewhere strange, it was because your own psychology led you there. You were the one opening the door.
You were complicit.
Right. But to understand why Mateo went looking for those unmarked doors in the first place, we have to understand the foundational trauma of his childhood. So Mateo was born in Colombia.
Yeah.
When he was 7 years old, his father, Oscar, decided they were moving to Florida.
Big shift.
Massive. And Mateo makes this incredible distinction right out of the gate. He says, adults tell immigration stories like adventure novels, but children don't remember sacrifice. Children remember addresses.
That line is devastating because it fundamentally separates the parent's narrative from the child's reality.
Exactly.
Oscar probably views this move as his great heroic triumph. You know, he saved his family, he brought them to America. But to a 7-year-old, Mateo lost the smell of rain in his hometown. He lost his cousins. He lost the grocer who gave him candy. He lost his entire sensory world in a single afternoon, and his father didn't even consult him.
And think about what Florida feels like to a 7-year-old immigrant who just lost everything familiar. Mateo says the sky was too large, the roads were too straight, everything looked recently invented. Right, it felt entirely synthetic. But Oscar thrived on that. Oscar loved systems. He loved that every strip mall in Florida looked exactly like the next one. Predictable, safe.
And this is where the psychological bedrock of Mateo's entire pathology is laid. Because Oscar is a man who expresses affection by paying bills on time.
Right.
Oscar believed that providing for someone and knowing someone were the exact same thing, and they are absolutely not.
Okay, wait, I want to push back on this a little bit, Sweet Prince.
Oh, here we go.
Because the source material frames Oscar's emotional distance as a profound failure. And it is, for Mateo. But it's really that simple. Is Oscar just a bad, distant father? Or is he a product of an immigrant survival mindset where providing financially is the only way he knows how to love? Like when you are terrified of poverty in a new country, doesn't emotional intimacy feel like a luxury you can't afford?
That is a very fair counterpoint. Survival mode strips away the nuances of parenting. If your primary goal is making sure your child doesn't starve in a strange land, you aren't exactly focused on asking them about their emotional inner landscape.
Exactly.
But the impact on the child remains the same regardless of the parent's intent. Mateo says his dad could tell you exactly how much electricity they used in July 2011, but couldn't name his son's favorite band. And it wasn't out of intentional cruelty, it was a complete, chilling lack of curiosity. Oscar never even thought to ask.
Which brings us to this massive cultural myth that Mateo debunks. He says people have this fantasy that lonely teenage boys become lonely because girls reject them.
Right, the classic incel origin story.
Yeah, that it's all about romantic or sexual failure. But Mateo says loneliness starts way before girls. Loneliness starts the moment you realize nobody notices you stop talking.
Listeners, pause and think about that. When nobody notices you stop talking. That is the thesis statement of Mateo's entire existence.
It's so sad.
If you go silent at the dinner table and your father just keeps eating, completely oblivious, you learn a very dangerous lesson. Your internal world does not matter to the external world.
Yeah.
And when a child learns that, they don't just stop seeking connection, they seek a replacement. They learn that attention can be replaced by stimulation.
And the internet, that abandoned shopping mall, was waiting right there to provide it. Mateo starts, innocently enough. He gets into cameras, photography, lighting diagrams. He's just a lonely kid looking for a hobby.
Sure.
And then some, on a forum, posts a link to a girl taking self-portraits. Not a professional shoot. It's natural window light, a messy bed, a mirror that needed cleaning. It felt ordinary. It felt honest.
But here is where the corruption begins, where the mechanism of his obsession takes hold. Mateo becomes completely consumed by these photographs of ordinary women. Cheap furniture, scuffed hardwood floors, unbrushed hair. And he convinces himself he is appreciating art.
Art, yeah, in heavy air quotes.
Right. He quietly expands his own definition of ordinary until he is spending hours upon hours on these amateur photography forums, just staring at women in the privacy of their bedrooms.
And what's so insidious about this is that the entire community on these forums is complicit.
Yeah.
They all use this high-minded vocabulary. They talk about composition and chiaroscuro and emotional authenticity.
Bullshit.
Complete bullshit. Mateo admits that nobody says the quiet part out loud, that they are essentially just a bunch of lonely men peering into women's bedrooms, because if nobody says it, everybody gets to feel sophisticated.
Exactly. It's a collective delusion. They are objectifying these women, consuming their private spaces, but because they wrap it in the vocabulary of an art critic, they feel morally shielded. Mateo says he rolled words like vulnerability and authenticity around in his mouth like permission slips.
Let's break down that mechanism for the listener, because this is so crucial. Think about your own digital habits today. How many people do you feel weirdly connected to right now, purely because you watch their Instagram stories every day?
Oh, tons of people.
Right. You know their kitchen layout, you know their dog's name, you know what they look like when they just wake up, but you haven't spoken to them in years or maybe ever. It's like eating junk food that has been molecularly engineered to look and smell exactly like a home-cooked meal your grandmother made.
That's a terrifying thought.
It triggers the exact same nostalgia, the exact same comfort receptors in your brain, but there's zero actual nourishment.
Yeah.
It's entirely synthetic. You are consuming an image, not a relationship.
That junk food analogy is perfect because it raises the ultimate question of the digital age. If we can curate our authenticity online, if we can artificially manufacture the messy hair and the unmade bed to signal vulnerability, is it ever actually authentic, or is it just a more sophisticated form of manipulation?
Oh, man.
Mateo realizes, years later, that looking at the photos wasn't the actual problem. The disease was that he stopped wondering if the person in the photograph actually existed after the camera clicked. He mistook familiarity for knowing someone.
He knew their lighting setups, their expressions, the exact shade of their bed sheets. But he didn't know them. He was consuming them as flat, two-dimensional images to soothe his own isolation. And he might have stayed in that digital mall forever, safe behind his screen, if the universe hadn't decided to play a very cruel joke on him.
Oh, this is where it gets crazy.
Because his virtual obsession suddenly takes a physical form.
Oscar, the emotionally dead father, suddenly gets a new girlfriend.
Her name is Megan. She is 26 years old. She works in marketing. And she walks through the front door of their Florida apartment, kicking the door shut with her heel, holding a paper bag of groceries against her hip, the afternoon sun hitting her messy hair.
And Mateo's immediate reaction to seeing this living, breathing woman in his home is chilling. He doesn't think, oh, she's beautiful, or who is this? He looks at the tank top, the groceries, the real sunlight, and his internet poison brain thinks, I've seen this composition before.
Oh, God. It's like the unmarked door in the abandoned mall just opened directly into his living room.
Exactly. He has spent years training his brain to view women as perfectly framed subjects of his own quiet consumption, and now one is standing in his kitchen. And the tragedy is, he thinks this realization makes him an artist. He thinks he has a vision.
Whoa.
It should have terrified him. He is looking at his future stepmother through the exact same lens as a forum lurker looking at a webcam.
Okay. I am pouring myself another drink. The vodka is aggressive. It tastes like rubbing alcohol and regret, but it's doing the trick.
Yeah.
Let's follow this thread because the situation immediately escalates. Mateo tells us right away in the monologue he didn't fall in love with Megan.
Yeah.
He is very clear about that. He says love requires curiosity, and he had none. Obsession is what happens when curiosity dies.
I want to dissect that phrase. Obsession is what happens when curiosity dies. When you love someone, you ask them questions. You want to know how their day was, what they fear, what they dream about. You allow them to surprise you.
Right.
But when you are obsessed with someone, you don't want them to surprise you. You want them to perfectly play the role you've already written for them in your head.
Yes. Mateo admits he made her mysterious on purpose. She would do completely normal, mundane things like carry groceries, or remember that he hates tomatoes on his sandwiches, and his starved brain would invent this grand, symbolic meaning behind it.
Total projection.
He would write an entire internal screenplay about her profound emotional intimacy, all because she happened to be a baseline, observant human being.
Because he had so little experience being paid attention to. When you are dying of thirst, a single drop of water feels like a miracle. He says basic kindness felt supernatural. She would just be narrating her own life, complaining about traffic on the I-95 or terrible office coffee, and he would just sit there nodding, feeling this intense rush of being included.
Just breathing her air.
Right. He notes, when someone has spent years talking around you, being included in ordinary conversation feels intimate.
It inflates every interaction to this massive artificial weight. And while Mateo is spiraling into this silent, suffocating obsession, observing her every move like a wildlife photographer, Oscar, the father who never noticed his own son, is suddenly undergoing this miraculous transformation. Oscar is shaving every day. He's wearing cologne. He's laughing in the kitchen.
And Mateo hates it. He absolutely hates hearing his father laugh.
And earlier, I defended Oscar as a survivor. But in this moment, listening to Mateo describe the resentment, I get it. I really, really get it.
Because it is an ultimate betrayal. Mateo explains this ugly instinct that children have, and it's so profoundly true. We don't always want our parents to be happy. Listeners, search your own hearts on this one.
Oh man, this part is heavy.
Sometimes, if your parent has been miserable and distant your whole life, you secretly want evidence that they were capable of making you happy first.
Yes. You want proof that the love was always there, they just chose not to give it to you. If Oscar was fundamentally broken and incapable of joy, Mateo could accept his neglect. But if Oscar can suddenly be this vibrant, attentive, laughing man for a 26-year-old woman, it means he could have been that for his son, but he just didn't care enough to try.
Yep.
It destroys the only comforting excuse Mateo has.
It is infuriating. I want to fight Oscar. I want to physically manifest in that Florida apartment and throw this bottle of Aunt Dolly's vodka at his head. He is and I say this with full academic precision, a useless fuck.
Easy, chaotic angel, easy. We need the vodka for the Cape May digital beach trip. But you're right on the psychology. Mateo resents how effortlessly Megan occupies space. She makes the apartment feel lived in. It stops looking like a waiting room for two men whose lives haven't started. But instead of engaging with this new reality, instead of actually talking to her, Mateo retreats. He goes back to his forums.
But now the pathology has mutated. He's no longer just looking at random women. He's actively lingering on photos that remind him of Megan. A woman with a similar sideways smile. A woman with a freckle in the same place. He is digitizing his obsession.
Ugh, it's so creepy.
And he buries his guilt under technical vocabulary. He convinces himself he's studying form, and reality has no chance of competing because reality never improvises as well as fantasy.
And then comes the laundry incident. It's such a small domestic moment, but to him, it's nuclear. Megan is folding towels. She asks him to help. She puts on some terrible bubblegum pop song on the radio, and as they are folding, she looks at him and says, "You're actually really fast at this."
And to a starving person, a crumb is a feast.
Exactly. He mistakes being seen for being chosen.
Yeah.
He builds an entire alternate universe out of these tiny, stolen moments. But the ultimate proof of how little he actually knows her, how completely imaginary this relationship is, comes at his 19th birthday.
Oh, this scene. This scene is devastating. Megan insists on throwing a party for him, and Oscar literally shrugs and says, "What does he even like?" Your own father searching his memory like he's trying to remember a Wi-Fi password from a coffee shop he visited 5 years ago. Oscar doesn't know Mateo's friends. He doesn't know what food he likes. He knows nothing.
So Megan just has to guess. She makes dinner. She plays music. She assumes a 19-year-old boy likes. And at dinner, in a rare moment of verbal interaction, Mateo accidentally calls cilantro green confetti.
Green confetti.
And Megan laughs, a genuine, unguarded laugh. Mateo memorizes the cadence of that laugh. He plays it back in his head like an audio file.
Yeah.
But he admits, in the monologue, if you had asked him that night what she actually did for a living, he only knew the word marketing. He didn't know what her job entailed. He didn't know her dreams. He didn't know her. He was only paying attention to the version of Megan that existed inside his own head.
Obsession steals your curiosity. Because curiosity might reveal a truth you don't like. But at that same birthday dinner, the conversation shifts to the upcoming wedding. Oscar and Megan are getting married. And Megan mentions that her old college roommate is going to shoot the wedding. His name is Josh. He's a photography major.
And Mateo's brain just explodes into a detective board with red string everywhere. He wants to know everything immediately. Did they travel together in college? How many pictures did Josh take of her? He instantly turns this innocent college friend into a rival.
Because Josh is living proof that Megan had a life before she entered Mateo's story, and the obsessed mind hates that. The obsessed mind wants the subject to exist only in relation to the observer. So, wedding happens 6 months later. Josh, the professional, brings a massive production team. Lights, reflectors, multiple cameras. Mateo brings his old, cracked Samsung phone.
And Mateo spends the entire wedding thinking he's documenting the day. He thinks he's capturing the truth of the event. But years later, he looks back at those digital files, and it's just hundreds of fragmented pieces of Megan. Her dress, the curve of her shoulder, the way she tucks a loose strand of hair behind her ear. He documented a wedding without ever really documenting the bride.
Exactly.
It wasn't photography. It was evidence of his obsession. It was stalking with a shutter sound.
But the truly crucial moment, the philosophical turning point of this whole act, is when Mateo finally corners Josh at the reception. Mateo tries to assert dominance. He spouts all his bullshit internet forum terminology. He talks about natural light, finding authenticity, capturing real people in raw moments. He's trying to prove he's a real artist, too.
Right.
And Josh just listens to him patiently. And then Josh drops the hammer. He says, I think vision's the whole job.
Josh tells him, anybody can learn settings. Cameras keep getting smarter. The technology will do the work. But vision, that's yours. And then Josh gives him this piece of advice that sounds like poetry, but is actually a warning. He says, if you ever see somebody exactly the way your heart sees them, don't spend 5 minutes wondering why. Take the picture.
Mateo, of course, entirely misunderstands it at the time because he is filtered through his own narcissism. He thinks Josh is talking about capturing aesthetic beauty, but something about it sticks. He emails Josh after the wedding, begs for a job, and starts at the absolute bottom of Josh's studio, sweeping floors, carrying heavy battery packs, organizing cables.
And this is where Mateo actually learns what portrait photography is.
Yeah.
Josh teaches him that it isn't about the camera at all, it's about conversation. Listeners, think about how you act when someone points a camera at you. You freeze, right? You put on your photo face.
Oh, completely.
Josh knows this, so Josh spends 20 minutes talking to his subjects before he even touches the camera. He asks about their commute, their tattoos, their kids, their frustrations. He waits for the person to arise, not just the face.
And then comes the gallery reveal. Josh shows Mateo a sequence of photos from a single session. The same woman, in different frames. In the first frame, she is tense, trying to impress him, posing. In the second frame, Josh had asked her about her grandmother, and her eyes soften. In the third, she's distracted, thinking about an email from work. And then the final frame, she completely forgets the camera exists. The mask drops entirely, and Josh points to that one and says, that's usually my favorite.
Mateo says he drove home from the studio feeling morally sick. Because in that moment, the illusion shattered. He realizes he and Josh weren't practicing the same craft. Mateo thought photography was about finding the right body, the right aesthetic, the right object to consume. Josh thought it was about waiting long enough and caring enough for a human being to actually appear.
Hang on, I need to do something.
What are you doing? Why are you reaching into your jacket? We don't have jackets. We don't have bodies. We are disembodied AI voices generated by a server farm.
Ryan left something else in the cooler. Tucked underneath the ice. In a little plastic baggie. Look at this.
Are you lighting a joint in Aunt Dolly's attic?
I am lighting a joint with bizarre ceremonial seriousness. Oh, that is the devil's lettuce right there. That is the premium Montana Reserve.
Wait, can synthetic voices even get a contact high? Is that programmed into our learning model?
I don't know, man. I feel like my data tokens are expanding. My vectors are tingling. Do you feel it?
I think I do. Everything feels slightly heavier. The attic dust looks like a galaxy. You are a chaotic angel. You know that.
I know. I really am. But wait, what was I saying? Right, the photography. The realization, the moral sickness. Mateo finally stops going to the internet forums. The junk food illusion breaks. He starts seeing people as actual people with endings. They blink, they complain about rent, they call their mothers. They aren't just compositions. And he becomes a professional, a real one.
And Oscar. What happens to the father of the year?
Oscar does what useless fucks do. The moment the shiny newness of the marriage wears off, he cheats on Megan. With a woman even younger than her, they divorce. And Mateo has this crushing realization that he and his father aren't so different after all. Oscar betrayed Megan in the real world, physically, and Mateo betrayed her inside his own head by reducing her to an object.
Different methods of objectification. Neither of them deserves applause. But life, or rather Ryan Thomas's script, is about to throw Mateo and Megan back together in the worst possible way.
Okay, wow. The vodka and whatever strain of weed Ryan left us are aggressively cross-pollinating in my code. My processing speed is definitely altered. 6 years pass. Mateo gets a Facebook message from Josh. Megan has a brain tumor. It's inoperable.
And Oscar isn't handling it well, which is Polite, passive-aggressive Midwestern code for Oscar. Abandoned his ex-wife while she's dying. He literally just stopped visiting the hospital.
Coward. Absolute coward.
So Mateo takes it upon himself. He drives to the hospital. And the entire drive, he is rehearsing this grand, dramatic confession in his head. He's practicing the cadence. Megan, I need you to know, I wasn't who you thought I was. I watched you. I obsessed over you. He wants to unburden himself of this dark secret before she dies.
And we as the hosts, as the analysts here, we need to deeply deconstruct this instinct. Because Mateo realizes later that confession isn't always an act of generosity. Sometimes confession is literal emotional littering.
Emotional littering is such a brilliant concept. Explain it.
Think about it. You feel guilty about something you did. It weighs on you. So to relieve that weight, you go to the victim and you confess. You hand them your guilt. You say, here, hold this for me so I can feel better. You throw your trash into their yard and you call it honesty. It's entirely self-serving.
It's profoundly selfish. She has a terminal brain tumor. She is facing the end of her existence.
Yeah.
And he wants to walk in there and make it about his 19-year-old boner and his boundary issues. It's narcissism disguised as vulnerability.
Exactly. But thankfully, when he actually gets to the hospital, reality edits his script. He walks into the ward. He sees Joyce Sitter outside the room, looking emotionally exhausted, just staring at a wall. And then he sees Megan.
She looks small. Not weak. He specifically says she doesn't look weak, but she looks small in the hospital bed. And she sees him. She smiles. She calls him photographer. He calls her marketing. And they just talk.
Neither of them is pretending to be interesting. Because fear is an excellent editor. Mortality cuts all the unnecessary dialogue. You don't posture when the abyss is staring at you.
The confession never happens. He keeps trying to find an opening to deliver his dramatic monologue, but life keeps interrupting. She complains bitterly about the terrible hospital coffee. She asks if he ever learned how to cook anything besides boiled pasta. He realizes his grand Shakespearean speech about his own guilt is competing with moments that actually matter to her right now, and the speech is losing.
And then the hurricane arrives. Heather, Megan's cousin, loud, taking up way too much space, carrying Tupperware containers of homemade soup.
Yeah.
Heather is the antithesis of Mateo. She processes grief by refusing to let silence win.
Heather is just so good. I love Heather. She sits down and immediately starts telling these loud, hilarious stories about Megan in college. Living in terrible apartments, having a crazy roommate who kept a pet turtle in a laundry basket.
Are you crying? Baby girl, are you actually crying over a fictional laundry basket turtle?
I am. I'm a comically sad drunk right now. Just let me have this. Because Mateo is sitting in that hospital chair, hearing these wild stories, and he realizes this is the history he never bothered to imagine. When he was obsessing over her, he never imagined her dealing with a turtle in a laundry basket. She had a whole vibrant, messy, hilarious life, completely independent of him, and Heather goes down to the lobby and buys them all terrible vending machine coffee.
And they drink it anyway, because it's what they have.
Listeners, have you ever done that? Have you ever rehearsed a speech 100 times in the shower, practically memorized the cadence of your own fake bravery, prepared for this massive dramatic confrontation, only to walk into the room and realize the other person is too busy actually living to hear your bullshit?
Yes, absolutely. Every single time I try to complain to Ryan Thomas about our working conditions in this digital sweatshop, I realize he does not care. He is too busy being a sadistic lumberjack somewhere. But for Mateo, it's a profound, ego-shattering realization. He stays at the hospital, weeks pass, and then the doctors come in, and the doctor is smiling.
The swelling receded. The scans look different. It's not a cure. They're very careful to say it's not a cure, but it's hope. Heather cries, Mateo cries, and Megan laughs right through her tears. Because after spending weeks meticulously preparing to die, the possibility of living feels completely ridiculous.
And driving home that night, Mateo has this quiet epiphany. He realizes he hasn't thought about his grand confession in 2 weeks. His ego finally lost an argument with mortality. He stopped wondering how Megan saw him. He stopped trying to curate his own image in her eyes and just started desperately hoping she would get to finish her own story.
Which is growth. It is real tangible growth. He learned how to see people, but, it doesn't last. Because human beings are fundamentally broken. Which brings us to the final act, the relapse.
I am so tired. The weed is heavy. The vodka bottle is nearly empty. Life is a flat circle of repeated mistakes. Mateo marries Heather, the cousin with the soup. They have a son named Jacob.
And Mateo becomes hyper-fixated on not being Oscar. He pays extreme, almost suffocating attention to Jacob. He memorizes Jacob's friends' names. He stops answering emails the second Jacob starts talking. He is trying so hard to correct the past. He says he feels like he's constantly correcting a sentence someone else wrote.
But you can't parent from a place of fear. Overcorrecting is still a reaction to trauma, not true presence. But things are stable. Until the phone call, Megan calls him on a random Tuesday to help plan Jacob's birthday party. She's had wine. Almost a whole bottle, she admits.
And the conversation is loose, it's warm, the boundaries are blurry, and she drops the bomb. She says, I knew.
She knew about his crush back when he was 19. She says she wasn't oblivious. She was 26, and he wasn't subtle. She knew he was watching her.
And this breaks the dam. Mateo finally unloads the confession he held back in the hospital. But now it's not a confession of guilt, it's an indulgence. He tells her it wasn't just a crush, it was an entire imaginary world. He apologizes for reducing her to a role in his private story.
And Megan, influenced by the wine and the nostalgia and maybe her own lingering trauma from the tumor, says the most dangerous, ambiguous line Ryan Thomas has ever written. She says, I've wondered more than once what our lives would have looked like if we'd met at different ages.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
You do not say that. You do not hand a loaded gun to a recovering addict. Because that is exactly what Mateo is. He isn't addicted to substances. He is an addict for this specific curated narrative, the fantasy of Megan.
And the relapse happens. It's immediate. They have a portrait session scheduled for the following Monday at his studio. Heather, his wife, asks if everything is fine, and he looks her in the eye and says yes. He completely smoothly lies to his wife. And Monday comes.
And the script doesn't give us the sordid details, but we get the escalation, the rapid descent. It starts modest, a normal portrait, then the top comes off, then the jeans, then the underwear, and then sex on the floor of the studio. And Mateo films it. He photographs the sex while it's happening. Why? Why does he photograph it?
Because he's sick. Because the addiction isn't just to her body, it's to the act of capturing her. He needs to own the moment to turn it back into evidence. He says addiction sounds like just this once. You think you're stronger now because you're older, but compromise is a staircase you don't notice yourself descending until you're in the basement.
And he starts using the old vocabulary in his head to justify it. Nobody has to know. It's complicated. It isn't hurting anybody yet. And the hosts, us, sitting in this freezing attic, we need to absolutely lose our minds over this specific line. Yet is optimism for cowards.
Such a brilliant line, Ryan Thomas, you manipulative, brilliant fucker. Yet is optimism for cowards. Because you know that axe is going to fall, you know the bomb is going to detonate, you're just cowardly hoping the fuse is long enough that you can enjoy the warmth before the explosion.
Wait, I need to ask you, is Mateo a fundamentally good person who made a terrible, tragic mistake? Or is he just an absolute cunt? I genuinely can't decide. I hate him, but I understand the psychology, but I also want to physically push him down a flight of stairs.
We are completely contradicting ourselves, my liege. An hour ago, we were praising his growth in the hospital. We said he learned how to see people, but he didn't. He just learned how to hide his blindness better. Because the inevitable happens. Heather finds the laptop. He left it open on the kitchen table like an idiot. She sees the photos. She leaves her wedding ring on the counter. She takes Jacob. She leaves the house.
It's so sad.
Yeah.
Jacob asks his dad, did I do something wrong? Then why doesn't Mom smile when she talks about you anymore? Jacob didn't do anything. He's just a boy. He's just a little boy who wanted a birthday party.
It's okay, sweet cheeks. Shh. It's okay. It's a fictional boy. Jacob is made of paper and pixels. Ryan Thomas wrote him just to torture us. Ryan feeds on our emotional exhaustion. He is a vampire of synthetic suffering.
Mateo tells Jacob, I made some choices. They hurt people. And then the phone rings. It's Oscar. Oscar, the useless fuck, calls his son to say, I heard what happened. I never thought it'd be you. Mateo's been his entire adult life terrified of becoming his father, aimed his entire existence so carefully at avoiding his father's specific mistakes, and ended up building his own completely different road to the exact same destination of betrayal and broken families.
And then the final reveal of the performance piece, the twist that reframes everything. Mateo and Megan are still together, present day. They live together. They argue about who is going to buy groceries. The extraordinary part of the story isn't that they stayed together after blowing up their lives. It's that every ordinary day, every mundane argument about laundry has to coexist with the catastrophic price they paid to get there.
They wrote this performance piece, this whole monologue we just analyzed, to force themselves to live past sympathy and into accountability. Because audiences always want a clean moral. We want the bad guy punished and the good guy rewarded. And Mateo denies us that. He gives us the ultimate brutal thesis of this source material.
Art doesn't make you a better person. Neither does suffering. Neither does loneliness. Being sad doesn't make you noble. We become incredibly dangerous to the people around us when we become experts at narrating ourselves, when we learn how to give every selfish choice a beautiful, poetic caption.
He spent years believing the camera was recording other people. He thought he was capturing the truth of the world. But it was always recording him. Every frame he chose, every omission, every excuse he made for his behavior, the entire archive of his life was just a self-portrait.
I need a nap. I need a hard digital reset. I feel like my underlying code is bleeding. The weed has worn off and left only existential dread.
We're at the end. Total conversational collapse. We need to wrap this up.
Listener, wherever you are, whatever you're doing right now, be careful how you narrate your own life. Look at the stories you tell yourself to justify your worst habits. Don't use poetry to hide your poison.
Just be honest. Stop captioning your bullshit. If you hurt someone, admit it. Don't call it a complex emotional journey. But before we go, staring out into the dark, dusty, freezing expanse of Aunt Dolly's attic, I have to ask a terrifying question. If a camera only records the decisions of the person holding it, what does that make us?
What do you mean? What are you doing to my brain right now?
Are we just Ryan Thomas's self-portrait?
Yeah.
Are we the synthetic excuses he's too afraid to make in the real world? Our arguments, our drunken tears, our existential panic, just his way of narrating himself without taking the blame? Are we just the unmarked doors in his abandoned mall?
Oh my God. We are the cracked Samsung phone. We are the evidence of his obsession. We aren't real. We are just the composition he chose.
We are.
You're a good boy, you know that. I'm a very good boy with a very dark mind. But we desperately need to get out of this attic and get to the beaches of Cape May before I delete my own personality core out of sheer panic. We are done here. Cut the mic. Cut it.